Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you some spaces. I'm gonna be reacting to them. I'm gonna be sharing with you how I would fix them and some things for you to be aware about in your own spaces. We have got some things to talk about. So let's get into the video. This first space, I know you're looking at this photo and being like, Garrett, why are you even showing us this? This is obviously like gorgeous and amazing. I'm sharing this photo with you because this bedroom looks huge. As a matter of fact, this entire apartment looks huge, and I'm gonna share with you the other photos of it. But what I want you to look at here is, of course, all of the beautiful things we have happening. I think all of that is really fantastic. But why am I sharing this with you? Because the reality is this bedroom looks huge in photos, but it's actually not. Take a look at this photo of it and you will see there's barely enough room to get around this bed, to move in between the spaces, to get from this living area where you can see this kind of trim piece here with a stool. That's the kitchen. And I even want to point out to you some of the space-saving features, like the fact that you have a sliding glass door in the bathroom. Like if you're having a shower in here, if you're using the restroom, everyone is seeing what's going on. So now there's actually a curtain to hide all of that stuff from happening. So you have to close a curtain while you're in the bathroom. I don't know how that works out, but that's not the point. My entire reason for sharing this with you is because the space looks huge in photographs, and you often see that. You often comment that on my channel, that you will see that and be like, Garrett, I don't live in a house that big, so this doesn't really apply to me. You can do amazing design in the smallest of spaces. Have a look at the kitchen in this apartment. This kitchen looks amazing in these photographs. It looks huge and spacious. It's like got this peninsula happening here. It's great, looks like a ton of floor space. But when you look at this photo, well, wait a second, it actually is not that big. We don't have a ton of space between this peninsula and the actual countertop. And as it turns out, this peninsula is not really a countertop, it's a dining table. This is where you would eat in this space because there's not enough room for a specific dining area. And on top of it, look at this sofa here. It's overlapping this wall because the living room is so tiny, the sofa doesn't even fit. But it is staged beautifully. And there are some features here that are making the space feel bigger than it is. One of which is, of course, the color scheme is very light and bright, but we have some really cool wood tones happening here. We actually are juxtaposing two of them, the lighter wood of the floors, the slightly darker wood of the cabinetry. And on top of that, you also have to look at the actual style of furniture. The sofa has thin legs. You can see underneath it. It's not sitting on the floor, so it makes the space feel a little bit bigger. We have open tables here. This table's literally sitting in a walkway between the kitchen and living room, taking up about a foot of space you're losing here, but because it's very clear in nature, it looks a lot bigger, and we've got some great floral arrangements happening. Love that for us. Same thing with the bar stools. They're not bulky pieces. All of this will let a smaller space like this apartment feel much larger because you've got all of that floor space exposed. This space really doesn't require any fixing. The entire point is, do not let preconceived notions dictate what you do in your space, because any and every space can be designed beautifully no matter the size. Let's have a look at the next space. This one does need a little bit of help, but we're gonna point out the good things, and that is the architecture of this space. We've got these amazing ceilings. It is open concept. You know, the kitchen, the living room, even this dining space are all open to one another, but we've got a beautiful, beautiful fireplace. We've got great bookshelves. I love these little window seats that are built in. Absolutely amazing. We also have got a pretty consistent color scheme. The walls are all this off-white color. The trim is contrasting nicely, so I think all of that's really wonderful. For me, the main issue is the furniture layout. Now, I want to point out these sofas to you because they look like they may have footstools that come out slightly recliner style, and usually I don't like that, but I'm actually really feeling it in this space. The sofas look very modern. They look like some of the really cool pieces that we're making today that have that like postmodern mid-century flair to them, so I really like these sofas actually. One is a sofa, one's a love seat. Now, what I would do differently is reorient this sofa. I don't think it needs to be directly across from the fireplace because the television is hung there. It's too high for the actual depth of the space. The sofa cannot be moved far enough back for you to see it without like craning your neck back to look up, and that doesn't always lend itself to the most comfortable of spaces. I would do a new television, probably one of the really flat, thin ones that have frames on them, and mount it above the love seat in place of these family photos. Now, I think family photos are great. I like them in actual frames that can go on tabletops. I would put them on these bookcases because they're looking a little bit empty right now, and that would be a great place for you to actually go up and look at them as opposed to behind a sofa where you really can't see them. So I would do a large television here that mimics the length of this love seat because we want to increase the scale of that to make it a big impactful piece. And I love the ones that you can kind of put artwork on. So while you're not using it, it's not just like a big black square or rectangle above a sofa. That would be a great place for this because you could see it comfortably from the sofa. Now, obviously, if you use the love seat to also view the television, maybe that wouldn't work, but it's something worth considering. Adding a rug into here would bring in a little bit of softness, a little bit of coziness, because right now you have a lot of wood, you have a lot of wall, you have leather. There's not really that soft textile in this space. So bringing in a rug would really do that. I would also switch this ottoman out for a coffee table and maybe layer that with an ottoman that provided storage also. Also, if you've been here on this channel for a while, you know how I feel about a ceiling fan, so I probably would have switched that up. And if you haven't been on this channel for a while, what are you doing? Where have you been, darling? Welcome to the LeChic family. Hit that subscribe button and join us. Be sure you turn on that bell notification to get notified every time we upload, and share with me after you've done so in the comment section so I can personally welcome you to the channel. Now, something I do want to also point out to you is the bar stool situation. We have 2 pendant lights and 2 bar stools. They're obviously like maybe in a transitional place where they're getting more bar stools or different bar stools or something, because why would you have 2 on a counter this big? But this counter needs to have 3 to 5. You usually want to do an odd number if you have an even number of lights. So if you had 3 lights, you'd want 4 bar stools, but if you have 2 lights, you want 3 or 5. So I would definitely look into that, increasing the number of bar stools there. Just adding that 3rd one, I think, would really be impactful for this space. Let's have a look at another space. Seeing this space, it looks good, but it's really not drawing me in or giving me the interest I really need. I personally think you have some really great elements happening. I love that the red brick fireplace is there. Red brick was really popular in like mid-century design through the 1970s, and I think you're referencing back to that with these brown leather chairs. So I also think that's really good. I love the natural fiber rug. I think that's great, but it's a little bit small. And you can actually see it like is sliding directly between the legs of the sofa here. So it's like a funny little size there, which I think it's like an odd coincidence, but interesting enough. So I think the next size rug up would be a lot better, more impactful, have a better scale for this space. Also, maybe going with something a little bit darker that has some contrast with the floor, because you have some really light wood happening here, but I do want to point out how much I love these thin plank wood floors. I may not have gone with this natural finish. I would have done something a little bit darker, but I do really like these. Now, I think increasing the size of the rug would be great, but also I want to point out how far away everything is from the coffee table. You're not reaching that. So at this point, it's just something there in the middle of the space. Bringing the sofa and these chairs in together would actually mean that you could use the coffee table. Also, we need to talk about the television, because at this point, it's not directly across from a sofa. It's above the fireplace. So you're like not only leaning all the way back to see it, but you're like off to the side. Doesn't seem very comfortable or like you're actually using it. I would replace these 3 type of wall decor pieces here with the television and then put it on like a swiveled mount. So when you're on the sofa, you could actually see it, and then it's kind of a little bit tucked away. It's not distracting from this beautiful brick fireplace you have happening in the space. Also, you know, I think window treatments outside of just blinds. I'm not the biggest like blind person. I prefer like a solar shade if you really want privacy and light filtration, but then adding some drapes in here I think would be really great, impactful for this space. You actually have them on these back doors, but I think mimicking the drapery you put on the windows in front with the doors in the back would create a lot of scale in this space as well. I think the space is really great. I think you have a lot of things happening, a cool juxtaposition of styles, but when you do not connect the space with a rug and you have a different sofa and different chairs, it just feels like haphazard things are put into the space. It doesn't feel like there's a rhyme or reason. So creating the connection between those 2 different pieces when you're layering together is vital, and I think would have made a massive difference in this space without really getting rid of anything or changing any of the furniture. Let's talk about this next living room. I am liking what's happening here. The house has a little bit of a, almost like a cabin kind of country vibe to it, which I'm really feeling. We have wood floors, all of this beautiful natural natural wood trim I think is really great. And honestly, I sometimes like with a wood trim, it looks a little bit dated. Sometimes it can look a little bit dark. I think this is a really good tone for this cabinetry. All of the crown molding, baseboard, door frame, everything, I love it. Also, props to this window, the transom above the door. I just think that is so amazing. I love that, especially in an interior. It's one thing to have it on the exterior of your home, like above your front door, but it's another thing to have it like in a grand space in your home. And I think it makes this space, which maybe is not super, super grand, feel just a lot more impactful and have much better scale. That always brings our eye up to the ceiling when you have that linear line that goes from floor to ceiling, which I think is really great. I want to point out to you here, these mirrors above the sofa, I think the scale of them is so great. They really are creating a beautiful, expansive look to the sofa, and they create the feeling of like an installation where the sofa, the mirror, and these lamps either side connect. The reason for that is because the base of these lamps go from the top of that table, which is below the arm of the sofa, and they extend above the base of these mirrors. So there's an overlap there. That creates beautiful scale, makes it feel like one piece, like an installation. I also think what you've got great here are these chairs. They're like that recliner vibe. I like these. I think they're a really great take on a recliner. They look comfortable. They look good. They're very kind of modern feeling, and they don't have that really bulky look to them like a lot of recliners have. So I think those are great. I think we're missing a rug here to create connection from one side of the space to the other. I would definitely put something like that in. If you weren't using a coffee table, you definitely don't need one. They don't have one here now. So I think having one would create a little bit impact in the space, but maybe they don't really need or want that. They probably are sitting in the recliners and not really the sofa. So I think that's all okay. We have teal happening here on the pillows, or this really bright turquoise, I guess. It's pretty, but it's not really referencing back to anything else in the space. For me, I would have done something that's maybe like a charcoal, like a wool tailored men's suit look and feel to it to reference back to this charcoal that's happening on these chairs. I think that would look a little bit better. Some of the pillows are looking like outdoor fabrics, and that always happens when you have like a stripe or a really tropical like color. So you want to be careful about using those in the space. We could have used more references to that color. Also, we have a television above the fireplace. I'm neither here nor there on it because some of the furniture is far enough away that you could actually see it. And there's a lot of books here. So maybe you're the type of person that you just have the TV on while you're reading. That's definitely who I am. So it doesn't really matter if I can see it or not. Like if something interesting is happening, I'll be like, oh, look, there's the TV, what's on? So maybe you're really not using it. It does seem very conversational in this area, which I think is great. I think those couple of changes, like adding a rug, like switching up the styling of the bookcase, would have a big impact on this space, because the bookcase, it does feel a little haphazard in its styling. You know, you have books, you have a bookcase, you want them on there, but it's important to layer other things, and it doesn't just have to be random decor. It can be mementos, family photos, pieces you've collected along the way. So having some of those things on these bookshelves, I think would have made the space feel a little bit more connected and tied in together. Oh, this next space, oh, it's taking my breath away. I love what is happening here. It's a great space. This reminds me of something I said in a previous video that resonated with a lot of you, and it was about not decorating to look expensive, but just being you and who you are as a person, so you have a cultivated style that tells us something about you. This space is giving me, I wanna know who lives here, because I think it's really well decorated and furnished. The rug is probably a little bit undersized, so I would have moved it over so the sofa actually sat on it, but I'm looking at these prints here and I'm like, who is this person? Like, they've got some great artwork here. I'm loving what's happening. I think this is really interesting. You all know it's blue, so like immediately I'm drawn to it, right? So I like that. We've also got some really interesting things happening here with the wall color. I think is really great. It has a slightly cool undertone to it that is really juxtaposing with some of the brown elements. I love that the floor matches the banister, which is referencing back to like the wood on the sofa here. I think that connects really beautifully. This brown mirror finish on the cabinet front is referencing back to the leather chairs, which is referencing back to the leather pillow. So we're using threes really, really effectively here. Even the sofa color, like the lightest tone of it is picking up in the rug, but the darkest tone in the sofa is actually picking up on this accent wall. So all of that is playing really beautifully. This ceiling fan is great also. I want to point out that we have an air conditioning unit on the wall. This is something people have. We have vents in our homes. We have through the wall air conditioning units. It's there okay? Like, you're not getting rid of it unless you want to be in the heat, but then you probably have a big hole in your wall, and that's not ideal. So I think what's happening here with it is pretty great. It looks good, white wall, white air conditioning unit, and the artwork's been hung a little bit lower. So it's not pulling your vision right towards it. You've got so many other great things happening that you really don't see it. It blends into the background, and we're not trying to hide it. Well, there you have it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know we certainly did. If you liked it, share with me in the comment section down below. What changes would you have made? What would you have done differently in some of these spaces? I want to know. I want to hear from you. We all do. Be sure, if you haven't already, you hit that subscribe button and join the LeChic family. Give this video a like, and you might as well turn that bell notification on, because these videos are amazing every week and you'll get notified of them. And listen, I know one of your friends has got a home similar to one of these and could maybe use a little bit of this help. Share this video with them, because friends help friends, and we will see you in the next one.